Hello. Welcome. Pardon me. Allergies. Pollen getting in my eyes. Let's try that again. Hello. Welcome to Miss Peepers Reading Corner. I'm Katrina, aka Miss Peepers. Let's talk about books. So today, as you can tell, I'm sure from the title and also from the fact that I have this book. Oh my gosh. I had it right the first time. I've got the book up here. I also have it in my hot little hand. We're going to be talking about The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett. But before we do that, I do have an announcement first to share. So I have been looking for somewhere other than the Amazon to buy my books and when I buy books. And of course, I like local bookshops and that kind of thing. But sometimes what you're looking for, you've got to go to the internet to find it. And so I recently switched over to bookshops.org. And the part that y'all will care about, probably, maybe, is that I have gotten myself an affiliate link for bookshops.org. So now this is a zero pressure situation, but I thought I would highlight it, but also because it's new, but also let you know what it means, because I think that not enough content creators actually explain how they're making money from stuff that they talk about on the internet. So if you go to bookshops.org via my affiliate link, which is in the description and is also in the bio of my channel, you'll see a page that'll show you my favorite books, suggestions that I've talked about on this channel, the books that I enjoyed the most that I would love for other people to read. If you buy a book that is listed there from that page, then I'll get a little bit of money. You won't pay any extra yourself, but I'll get a portion of that purchase paid to me. It is a small amount. This is not how I make my first million, unless a million of you do it, but there aren't a million of you watching right now, so that's unlikely. But regardless, it'll kick a little money my way. I will not be offended if you choose not to do this. Appreciate it if you do, not offended if you don't. Do what's right for you. Feel free to look at that list and get ideas and then acquire your books elsewhere. There are lots of ways to get books. One thing that I really like about bookshops.org, though, is that they donate, or they share the profits from their book sales with local bookstores that sign up. So you can actually go into that site and find local bookshops in your area. You can put in your zip code or city name or whatever, and you can see who's signed up, which stores have signed up. So like I picked a shop that I go to frequently, a used bookstore in my area. I'm not going to dox myself and tell you where it is, but regardless, I did that. So a portion of the profit from anything that I buy will go to them. If you don't choose a bookstore, then they have a pool where they distribute the money across various local bookstores that way. So I like that. It feels like a much better way to buy books. And I like that even if I'm not buying directly from my local bookstores, I'm still supporting them and bookstores across the country, because some areas have better support for small businesses than others, and it's nice to give back a little bit. So anyway, that's my spiel. Take it or leave it, but you'll start seeing that in the description if you read descriptions of my videos, and I welcome you to take a look. All right, so now the reason that you're here, let's talk about the Maltese Falcon. So I read this, I finished this book recently, and funnily enough, I've had a copy of this for a while. It's been in my collection, and I just decided to pick it up a few weeks ago, and then shortly after I started reading it, Leandra the TBR Zero decided to make this her book club pick on her Patreon, and so it worked out really well. I was like, well, I'm already reading this. This is perfect timing. So I have finished it. Her book club discussion has not happened yet, but that's coming up. I'm excited about that. But anyway, so I've just finished reading this. I watched the movie years ago. And I have not had a chance to rewatch it more recently, or since I read the book, to see how well it compares. It to my high level memory, it's pretty consistent. Who knows how accurate that is? When I watch the movie again at some point, hopefully in the near future, I might be like, no, this is completely different. What were you thinking? But so if you've seen the film, though, you'll have an idea of what this book is about. But if you haven't, or you haven't read the book, let me tell you what this is. So, The Maltese Falcon is a hard-boiled detective novel. We follow Sam Spade, who is a private investigator, and he has been hired to track down this item called the Maltese Falcon. Now, it's not a straightforward case. It's not a straightforward hire. There are a lot of twists and turns, but it is essentially, there are several people who are looking for this item that has a lot of value to them. Sam is learning about it as he goes, why it's important, why people want it, how these people found out about it in the first place, why this particular set of people are looking for that. All of those things are, I would consider spoilers, so I'm not going to get too deeply into this. But it's a fun story. It's an adventure. It's everything that you can think of that, like, New York noir detective story. And from what I remember of the movie, the vibe of it fits really well. So let's start with what I liked about this book. Those things I described. I enjoyed mysteries. I enjoyed detective stories. This is my first hardboiled. I don't know why it's taken me so long. This book was published in the 1950s, and I will say that that is one of the things that I liked, and also one of the things that I did not like. We'll get to that in a minute. But this is definitely a product of its time, in good ways and bad ways. But one thing that really surprised me, and I didn't really know what to expect. I'd never read Dashiell Hammett before. It's actually really well written. And I say actually, I'm sorry, that probably sounds a little condescending. That's not what I mean. But I thought it would be good. I did not expect it to be, like, well written, to be really honest. And I'm just going to read the first paragraph of the book, because I don't want to give any spoilers, but just give you an idea of the writing. So chapter 1 is called Spade and Archer. Samuel Spade's jaw was long and bony, his chin a jutting V under the more flexible V of his mouth. His nostrils curled back to make another smaller V. His yellow-gray eyes were horizontal. The V motif was picked up again by thickish brows rising outward from twin creases above a hooked nose, and his pale brown hair grew down from high flat temples in a point on his forehead. He looked rather pleasantly like a blonde Satan. And that's our introduction to our main characters. So it's I was surprised by how, like, flowery in some ways the language can be. Flowery in, of course, a very masculine way. We'll talk about gender in a minute. But yeah, it's well written. It's entertaining. There's the dialogue moves you along through the story. It is. It's not a super. Let's see. This is about 200 and some pages, 210-ish pages. So it's a book that respects your time in that they move through the story. Hammett explains the things that need explaining, and moves on with life and continues on with the story. So this is a fun book. One thing, or several things. There are several things that I did not like about this book, and some of them I expected to see, and some of them caught me a little bit off guard. So because this is a book published in the 1950s, it reflects the mores of the time, and also the prejudices of the time. So I was expecting sexism, and we got it. Sam is sort of a man's man, a manly man, if you will, and all of the women in this book, all of them swoon for him. They all love him. They all think he's great. It's, I think, a little bit of I think, but Sam himself, I mean, you heard the description that I read of him. He's not like some heartthrob kind of guy. He's not like the most beautiful man that you've ever seen. He is grizzled, and he is tough, and he is, like, manly, and he does not commit to anyone. He refuses to commit to a woman. And so there's that aspect of it where you have this several one-sided relationships with women that he has in this book. And the women in the book have very traditional gender roles. They fit into those traditional gender roles. The woman who hires him, Bridget O'Shaughnessy, is your classic femme fatale. In the noir book, she uses her feminine wiles. She is actually herself pretty tough as a character. So that was a pleasant surprise. I did like that she holds her own and she stands up for herself. But she also is going to, but she also, when she is not getting her way with someone, with a man in particular, she will, flutter her eyelashes and try to do the seductive thing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But Sam is always in control, one way or another, of his emotions. If he swoons back to a woman, it's because he wants to, not because he has to. It's very, very clearly delineated that he is in complete control of his emotions, and of his libido, of course. But so that portion was in there. I did expect that. I also did expect and received. I knew that because this story has an international component to it, that there would be some xenophobia in this book. There definitely is. Not as much as I was expecting, though, which is interesting. Like, there's definitely some in there, but it's not a ton. What I actually saw more of was fat phobia, like a lot. And that really surprised me. I not that people felt that way at that time, because I mean people still feel that way, but more that one of the more antagonist characters is a larger man, and Hammett takes every opportunity to remind us of that, and like to an extreme degree. That part was incredibly off-putting to me, and I was like, it's not enough that he happens to be heavy, but that he has to just keep saying it over and over again and describing his body in a really negative way, to reinforce this, I guess, stereotype that he's this gluttonous villain who is looking for riches, but also, seeks out food, clearly, because he is so large, he must eat a lot. And like this kind of, all these like really negative body shaming sorts of stereotypes, that it's just really, that part I found really upsetting even. It doesn't take up a lot of time in the book, but every time this character shows up, that's a significant portion. There is also, to a lesser extent, some homophobia in here, in that one of the characters is not like officially queer, but Sam assumes that he is, because he has sort of an effeminate style to him, so or mannerisms, and so it's assumed that he must be gay. And of course they don't say it quite like that, but there are some like microaggression type comments made about that character when he is described, that again reinforce those negative stereotypes of a gay man must be weak and must be feminine, and which in that time was considered the same thing, and just like that there's sort of, he can't be a tough guy because of that, which is absolute bullshit, by the way. Obviously, but so that was in there, but yeah, the fat phobia was just so stark, and I don't know if it's because I wasn't expecting it that it stuck out to me more, or but I do, yeah, it was just incredibly excessive. And once that character showed up, I started paying attention again to some of the other characters that are described in that negative way, and it was so much less. So what I'm going to say is that while I enjoyed this book overall, that portion of it was a pretty big turnoff and was not enough. Like, it definitely pushed my rating down, and it's making me think, will I read more Dashiell Hammett in the future? I don't know. I think there are multiple Sam Spade novels, I believe. And I don't know if I'm going to try another one. I might, just to see if that's something that happens in all of his novels. If I read a second one and I see that again, I'll be out. Um, but uh, but yeah, and I do not recall that being a big factor in the movie. But again, I watched it so long ago. I do remember xenophobia being a factor in the movie, um, and so one of the villains is played by or was played by the German actor Peter Lorre, who often played villainous characters, partly because he was German and partly because he was not conventionally attractive, and so he kind of fit into this niche of bad guy. Um, but anyway, so but I do not remember the fat phobia in the movie. Maybe in the film it didn't need to be said for that audience to understand that it was there. I don't know. I don't know. That could be an interesting discussion. Again, only when I watch the movie again. I don't want to opine too much on something that I watched, gosh, 10, 15 years ago. But the big question, do I recommend this book? And I would say maybe. Maybe I recommend it. Certainly, if any of the topics that I discussed are particularly challenging for you as a reader or topics that you prefer to avoid, then I would say no. There are other mystery novels that don't have that kind of thing in them. There are probably other hard-boiled mystery novels. Again, this is my first one, so I don't know, but I would wager that there are other hard-boiled detective novels that don't have that those topics or those intolerances in there at all, or at least not as starkly. So that's something to bear in mind. But if that either doesn't bother you as much, or it is something that is not going to mess you up to read or to move through, then I mean, this is a good story, and I think that's the tragedy of something like this, of a book like this, that it is a good story. I enjoyed the story, and thank you, Yield No One. Topics. It is a good story. I enjoyed the mystery of it because I did not remember all the details even from the movie, so if they were the same or not, it wouldn't have made a difference to me reading this now. But I would recommend it if you enjoy detective novels, and if the more sensitive topics are not as much of a problem. So yeah, I think that's probably all I have to say about this book. This might be a shorter video, which is fine. They don't all have to be super long. I will, I do want to talk a bit. Oh my gosh, I moved my camera. Moved my camera. Oh my gosh, wrong way. Wrong way. Behind the scenes, y'all. I need to get a better stand for that. So it doesn't jiggle around quite as much. Plans for the rest of this month and going into next month. So I am participating in the Amazing Readathon, which is in June, and it's going to be hosted, and it is hosted by Bree over at Four Paws in a Book. I'm not going to spoil her announcement of her readathon. If you have an interest in competitive readathons, I did it last year. It was a lot of fun. It's very chaotic. I will say this year she's added a component or an option to participate in a non-competitive way if you just want to read and kind of hang out and chat about books with a group of folks in her Discord. That's an option. Check it out if you're interested. But you will be hearing about that a bit from me as I participate in it in June. I've started pulling my potential book list together for that. And yeah, and then we'll probably have some tag videos and some stuff like that. I've got a few plans in mind. There might even be a pre-edited video that's not live. What? Things are calming down for me a bit, so I think I'm going to have a little bit of, I'm going to have more spoons to do some more of that, hopefully over the summer and going into the fall, so we'll see how that goes. So yeah, but I appreciate you being here, and I hope you enjoyed this topic. Let me know if you've read The Maltese Falcon or anything else by Dashiell Hammett. Did you like it? Did you see some of the same things I did? Are his other books like that? Let me know if you've read any of the others. And yeah, and otherwise, regardless, please keep reading. Above all, keep reading, and I will see you in the next one.